So have you ever tried to start an abstract painting and you sat there just staring at the blank canvas, not knowing what to do? If so, that is totally normal. In fact, my students report that is the #1 problem they have, is how to start an abstract. And today my goal is to take that issue off of your plate. Today I'm going to show you how to create an abstract painting using a painting prompt. And I'm going to use a prompt from my ebook called 52 Abstract Painting Prompts. The good thing about having a painting prompt is that you don't wonder what to do. You have an idea to start off with. But it's not just that. In my ebook, I also give you a color scheme. So each prompt has a color scheme to use, and I define all of them in the beginning of the book if you don't know what they are. And that way, you're not trying to figure out color haphazardly, because what happens if you don't have a color plan beforehand, people get really excited and they throw all kinds of colors on their canvas, but then it turns into a muddy mess, or there's way too many colors and it's not very interesting. And today we're going to use prompt number 20, which is texture first. So in texture first, we want to have a canvas that already has some texture on it, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. So let's jump right into our lesson today. And by the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Andrea Sermansky, and I teach in-person painting retreats in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I also have an online painting course and other mini courses on mediums and colors and all different things. And if you want to learn more about the offerings I have, you can check the description box below. I have a bunch of links down there. So I am starting with this white canvas that has some texture on it, as you can see. So this texture comes from many layers of paintings that did not work that I eventually just gessoed over. But I want you to notice something, that the texture is actually pretty carefully laid out. There's some here, there's some there. It's kind of scattered around. I don't have a whole bunch in any one area. So that's the first thing you want to do, is get a texture medium or something like sand, like a natural thing like sand. You can just add it right to your paints. Now the texture mediums are specific to acrylic, but in oil you could add sand or even small twigs. People have used coffee grounds. Make sure they're really dried out first though. But there's a lot of different ways to make different textures. And then you want to get a palette knife and you want to put them on like this. Just apply your textures in different areas and try to have some variety. So you can see in this piece, I have some sort of organic roundish shapes. I actually have some collaged paper here that I ripped off. There's a lot of different things going on here, and things are sort of evenly spaced out, okay? So you could definitely paint over an old piece. The only thing I'd say, if you have a really distinct line, like let's say it's a flower, I would try to texture over that so we get rid of the idea of the flower or the mountain or whatever it might be, so that we're starting kind of fresh. Okay, so like I said, we're going to start with texture first, but also we're going to use an analogous color scheme. If you don't know an analogous color scheme, it's using colors that are next to each other in the color wheel. So for example, we could use the cool colors, or we could use the warm colors, and white and black never count. So in other words, you can always use white and black with your color scheme. So I decided to do some cool colors and of course white and black to create my painting. And the white and black are important in an analogous color scheme because they're going to help to create contrast. We want to make sure we have some dark values and some light values, some light colors and some dark colors and some medium. So we have that value range and there's some contrast and pop and visual interest. And also, I might not actually finish this painting today. The point is to get you started with an idea and with a color scheme and then go from there. So let's jump into the painting. So I mixed purple, blue, black, and white to get this as our first color. And I always like to cover my canvas with a color. So I'm just going to cover the whole thing, and I like to paint around the sides of the canvas too. And that way, when it's finished, it will feel finished and you can hang it on the wall and you don't have like white unfinished sides. I love to use a hardware store brush, like a pretty brush for my first layers. Just kind of covers things really quickly. And so we're just kind of going over the texture with the paint. And one thing you'll notice is that you have to really push in, because the texture, we've got to really use some water and push in to get in the crevices, like these white spots here. So have a water bottle and that'll help solve that problem. You can also spray your canvas first with a bit of water. And you can also spray if your paint's getting low, you can spray the paint right on the palette, and that will help bring up some last, paint that you have left. So we're just getting our sides now. I'm not going to paint the bottom because if I paint the bottom with wet acrylic paint, it'll stick to the easel here. So I can get that later. It's a little hard to mix the same exact color. I lay the painting flat and then I will paint the bottom as well and dry it. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to keep going. So look carefully for any little white spots that are still there. You can even spray your brush with the water. And notice like when I'm using the water, it actually makes the value look a little bit lighter because we're thinning out the paint. We don't want to thin it too much though. So make sure you have enough paint to begin with. This is a 16 by 20 canvas. You need at least about 5 tablespoons of paint, I'd say. By the way, if you want to learn how to use the painting mediums that I use to create the background of this painting, you can grab my free guide. It's called My 5 Favorite Painting Mediums. And I go through the different brands that I like, the different mediums I like, and I tell you how to use them. So that's a free guide, and it's going to be right below in the description box. Okay, we're going to leave it there for our first layer. Actually, let's just clean that up. Okay, so you have a few options here. You can keep working wet and start blending some other things in, or you can dry it all the way and then start working. I usually recommend drying it all the way because once we start working and getting into the flow, we kind of just lose track of time. And we want to have a layer that's totally dry in the background. So if in later layers we use a wet rag, we're not wiping off that first layer and going back to the white. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick blow dry on this. We're using medium heat, and you want to make sure that if your canvas is already really tight, you just keep like cold, keep it on cold, or just be patient and let it dry. I'm going to move all around and not stay in one area so you're not tightening one area. Okay, so now we're going to go to our next color. So we started off with a darkish value, and now I want to move to a lighter value because we're creating depth with having this in the first layer, and we want to go lighter and lighter as we go forward so we create that sense of depth. And I'm just going to mess around with holding up some different colors. I'm going to go with something like this. It's actually pretty light, so actually maybe I'll go to the turquoise first. By the way, if you want to learn how to mix the color turquoise yourself, I've got a video on that, and that will be right up here. We'll also link to it at the end of the video. So I'm going to try turquoise with a little bit of dioxazine purple, because the purple is what I used in that base color. And so when we use colors that are in the painting to mix with the others, we get harmonious mixtures. So this is a really cool color, and it's not turquoise, but I really like it. So let's use this. I'm going to make a little bit more. Okay, so it looks like a periwinkle. It's a really beautiful color. It's almost a little too purple though. It's a little too similar. I want some contrast. So what makes turquoise? Blue, yellow, and white. So I could add some blue to this to bring it more to the blue, or some white to make it lighter, or some yellow to make it more neutral. I'm going with a touch of yellow and the phthalo blue. And that brings us a little bit more to the blue-green. Okay, we're gonna go with that. This is where it's going to be really fun because we're going to actually, we can work on the texture or in the spaces in between. And I'm thinking, let's start with on the texture and then go from there. I like hard bristle brushes for acrylic painting and for abstract painting. I just prefer them. I just feel like they work a little better. And I'm just gonna lightly kind of almost dry brush in. Now I don't wanna have just a plop here and a plop there. We wanna blend that out a little bit. So I'm gonna use what's on my brush and just sort of move around a little bit. And let's move over to this next area here, come down there. So in some spots, I'll make bigger shapes and other spots, smaller shapes. So I'm mostly going on the areas that have texture, but I'm blending out from them too. Okay, so that's a pretty dark color. So what we're going to do is add some white to our palette, and we're going to add white right to the brush to make a lighter value of this color. So I added white, I scraped some of that blue over, added white, and we're just going to go like this. Okay, right into the white. My brush is dirty with the other paint. And now, I always like to work outward in. I don't like to work dead center. So let's come from here. Again, we're dry brushing. Even though the brush is wet with paint, we're being very light about the touch here. I'm just sort of scrubbing, if you will. Okay, so I'm not covering all of those dark areas. Here I'm going to go around that dark area. So you see we create this really nice little value change there. And we can blend right into the wet paint. See how far this is going? I just dipped my brush once and I'm like covering almost, this whole canvas with it. So I want you to see when we're up close here, look at the texture and how the light colors pop that texture really nicely. Notice I'm going all over the place, asymmetrical balance. We don't want to have too much in any one spot. Yeah, let's throw some horizontals in too. I have a lot of sort of diagonal. And I'm still using the same paint here. Isn't that crazy? Okay, I feel like we should change the color a bit. Remember that light blue I was going to start with? It's kind of different. I'm a little worried about this, but we're doing it, okay? It's good to take risks when you're abstract painting. Ooh, I like it. See? On the brush, it seemed too intense, but I really like that. So notice I am still filling in over the purple for now, but I don't want to cover up all the purple. I'm going to look away for a second, okay, and just okay, because sometimes when we're looking so carefully, and so like I'm getting these interesting things now because I'm not looking and I'm not being overly controlled about it. I really like this color a lot, actually. Let's try a different tool. Let's use a sponge. I'm going to wet the sponge first and squeeze out the excess water, okay? And let's see what we get with the sponge. So you see we get that nice pop. And I do like that. I don't want to do too much of it. And again, let's do something a little different. This is already coming together really nicely. Look at that. Isn't that fun? Let's do a lighter version of this color. So we're just going to add white to that color. And remember, we can do that I can mix white into the original paint, or I can just take my brush that still has that color and add white to the brush. Okay, here we go. White is on the brush. Let's do something a little different. I like to have things come off the canvas, okay? So it comes in from here and then it goes somewhere. Like we want to have a line for your eye. I mean, some things can just be, in the middle or whatever, but I like to have things coming from somewhere into the story of the painting. I really like what happened there. Continue that idea a little bit. Let's flip it so we get a different sort of view on it. Now I feel like it's getting a little heavy on that white, no problem. Let's get the sponge with what's already on there and just blend into it a little bit. Now, if your paint's still wet and you feel like you've put too much on, get a wet rag, like an old t-shirt or maybe some washcloths, wet them, squeeze them out, and we can pull out some of the paint that's still wet. Now, you see how that happened? That white got exposed? This was not fully dry and I rubbed too hard, okay? So we'll just have to go over that with, let's put that color there, okay? So we want to be careful, not rubbing too hard if it's not totally dry yet. All right, let's use our fingers now. And see, I like putting that dark back in because now it's popping. This is getting a little bit muted. Let's go back to that color actually and use our fingers. Just have them dance on the canvas here. Let's try a palette knife. So this is scumbling. I put the palette knife on the paint so it's like flat like that. And then wherever we want to pop some details, we'll go on top. Notice it's picking up the texture. So wherever the texture is highest, we're just rubbing on top. We're not trying to get under so much. Now it's getting super busy, isn't it? So at this point, we want to start like, okay, what is our composition? Like, where are we going here? Is this something that we want to push into more? Do we want it to just all be scattered with different things? I tend to like a real strong focal point and something in the composition. That's the beginning of something there, and I like that. So I might lean into that a little bit more. And I'm going to get white, some of that blue. We're just going to work with this hill that's happening. I'm going to change the color a little bit here and just see. There we go. Really like that lavender color. Yeah, just sort of bring a little more variety. I think we want some darks back in there to sort of help make this feel heavier. Just going to use my fingers again. So what I'm doing is I'm like putting the dark next to the light so it feels like it's popping a bit, and we just have a sense of like visual weight. It's a little heavier. It's more developed. It feels more like a form now down here, right? But we don't just want those things there. We want to bring them around a little bit. So we have some of this lavender here. Let's throw some little touches up here too. A little bit here. Just going to use my fingers and go right into the, I'm going to use my fingers and go right into the white paint. Okay, so I've got this lavender in my fingers. It's a little too much, but we'll mute it out. Now, what I want to do is I want to pop this out more, and you see how it's lighter behind it? I'm going to go really dark behind that so that pops it more. So, by the way, the 52 Abstract Painting Prompts ebook is available for sale. You can purchase that, and I have a special discount for you, $20 off. It makes the ebook only $9. So use the code PROMPTS, prompts. The link is going to be below in the description, and you can get the 52 abstract painting prompts delivered right to your inbox, and you will have a prompt for each week of the year. And again, it's an idea and it's a color scheme with examples from my own paintings. So if you want to stop trying to figure out how to start your painting, grab this ebook today. It's a great deal for only $9. Okay, dark purple. And see how that is now popping forward more because we put some dark behind it. I think I want more of this dark blue, but I want it a little bit darker maybe. Yeah, or maybe a little bit more purple in it, which will make it darker because purple is a darker color than blue. Okay, that's the blue I want. See how this is now popping things even more, this darker blue? Oops. Oh, that was way too much up there. Let's see if we can work with it though. It's a very big palette knife. Let's go a little smaller. Let's try this round one. So if you make a mistake like that, you just get your wet rag and you can blot some of that out. Okay, I don't mind it terribly, but it is a bit much. Now let's bring some of this dark to this side. Maybe here, just a little bit. Try to pop this lavender a little bit more. Okay, mixed up some of the light blue with the light purple, and I'm going to develop a little bit more in this zone. Let's blend some of that in with our fingers so it doesn't feel so plopped. Look how quickly I'm just like scratching and moving all around. I'm not even really seeing exactly what's getting blended. Being very loose here. Now, every once in a while, you want to stand back from painting and look at it to see what's going on. So I'm going to stand back and take a look. And this feels really plopped on. I want to see if I can blend that down a bit. That's better. And I see that I want this darker color just a little bit more. And now that almost feels too big, so we're going to scumble on top of it. Okay, so we're going to stop right here for now. And I just gave it a blow dry. And now I want to add some details with acrylic markers. And you can use any brand of acrylic markers. I've used a couple different brands, the One for All markers and the Posca markers. I'm using the Medine markers today. There's 30 colors, and I really like the variety of colors you get in this set. So let's go ahead and try to pop some details with the markers. All right, I'm gonna try this turquoise. Now, whenever you're using the markers for the first time, you have to prime them. To prime them, you just go like this. Sometimes you hold down a longer time, shake it up well, and you just go like this, and eventually you'll start to see the paint flow. Once I start to see it flow, I like to press it down for a bit of time here. Okay, looks like it's going now. So with the markers, we're just trying to pop some details, get some fine lines. I'm going to try a different color, actually. Yeah, this is perfect, this lilac color. I love this one. Okay, it's already primed. So I'm just making kind of gestural marks, as you can see. But also trying to stay in line with the shapes that are here. You can also use it to outline shapes. So like there's a dark shape here, like an outline, just a part of it, not the whole thing. And if you wipe it out quickly enough, it'll go away. So it's a great way to sort of try some other ideas. And it works better when the paint is dry. So I can see not all this paint is dry and it's getting on the tip of the marker, and you don't really want that to happen. So you see I just put that on and it's already almost dry. So let's get the wet rag and just very lightly pull some of that out. You can also make dots. That was cool. It actually splattered. I'm okay with that. That looks really cool. But see, I'm priming it when I'm pushing, and a lot of paint came out. So that's my fault. But we're going to go with it. It's like Bob Ross happy accident moment. That's what I like to pretend. I want to get rid of that dark there, so. So I like to draw lines like that, and then I just blot some of it out. So it's like broken lines. Okay, what I did was subtle, but it actually makes a difference. If you can see, there's some more details going on here. So that is our lesson. I hope you enjoy this. And I want to tell you about another really cool thing coming up in early January 2026 is a abstract floral challenge. And so if you like this lesson and you like my teaching style, you might want to sign up for that challenge. And so if you get on my email list and get that free guide on the mediums or any of the freebies down below in the description box, you'll be on my email list and we will let you know when it's time to sign up for that challenge. So thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions at all, please put them in the box below and be sure to subscribe. So many of you watch my videos, but you're not subscribed. It makes a big difference to my channel when people subscribe and like and comment because it pushes my videos out more. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. And also remember, the link to the 52 Abstract Painting Prompts book is below. It's only $9 if you use the code PROMPTS. And so check that out below. You'll have a prompt for every single week of the year.